Hello and welcome to Talmud Vibes, where we try to talk about Judaism, Torah and Talmud in a more casual approach, yet maintaining the ultimate respect for Israel's most precious tradition. My name is Yair Alon, and I am an Israeli rabbi living in Brazil. Aí aqui vai a vinheta. If you've been following Talmud Vibes, first of all, let me thank you for your company here. And if you've watched my video 2 weeks ago, you know we discussed the Sitra Achra. In case you haven't watched it, here is the card to do so. Make sure to watch it later, okay? So, our topic today is kind of related to the Sitra Achra, since we are going to discuss the Dybbuk, which is some kind of spirit that connects to a living person. Yes, but we will get there soon. Before that, however, I would like to start by bringing up a pasuk, a verse from the book of Shmuel Aleph, Samuel 1, 16, 15. The verse says, "Now the Spirit of the Lord had departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord began to terrify him." The expression "an evil spirit" is a ruach ra'ah in Hebrew. And this expression with this particular meaning appears only in the book of Shmuel Aleph. There is another mention of these terms in Judges 9:23, but it's a different meaning altogether. There it means that a spirit of discord coming from God was sent to provoke a quarrel between two people. Okay, but back to Shmuel, to Samuel. What is happening here to King Saul? What is this evil spirit, this ruach ra'ah, entering him? As you have noticed, the text does not specify exactly what happened, but it only says that due to this new spirit into him, Saul was terrified, or being terrified, and it showed to others. It was so obvious, actually, that their servants in the court advised him to find someone who would play him music to try and calm him down. In other words, King Saul started to act odd, as if he wasn't himself anymore, so to speak, and that was very clear and obvious, both to himself and to others. So this evil spirit was causing something in Saul, and he could not avoid it on his own. Maybe something similar happened with another famous king, but this time not a Hebrew one. I'm talking about Nebuchadnezzar in the book of Daniel. In Daniel 4:30, we read that the king started to behave like a wild animal, even eating grass, like a cattle, like a cow maybe. This odd behavior of his lasted for 7 years, not a pleasant experience, for sure. For us, in contemporary times, in our modern world, with our understanding of science and medicine, those descriptions sound like they are probably related to mental health issues. But are they? How much do we really know to be able to be sure? Remember that in ancient times, the limits between religion, philosophy, medicine, and science were very blurred. Basically, all unusual behaviors and phenomena, and sometimes even normal phenomena, were thought to be caused by demons, by spirits, or by some god. It was very common to see societies in which healers were priests at the same time. I mean, both professions walked hand in hand, right? If we call Cabala into discussion, we will say that some of our diseases are more connected to our physical vessel, the guf, the body. When this is the case, Western medicine, thanks God, is very helpful indeed. And science development has taken us very far in understanding, dealing, and treating this kind of problems. But Kabbalah will also tell you that we live in a divided world. Body on the one side and the soul on the other. And when I say soul, maybe you will think about a single, complete, and unified soul, opposed to the body. This is very typical of Western mentality. But according to Kabbalah, this is not how it works. And this view does not apply to the way our Jewish tradition sees existence. According to Cabala, It will be more precise if we will talk about souls in the plural, or fragments of soul, or at least soul levels, since we have at least 3 levels of the soul, and 5 depending on how you count. And since each one of them has specific functions attached to them. One of these levels, the lowest one, is called Neish. It is connected to a more animal and vegetative part of us. It is the level responsible, for example, for digestion, reproduction, sleep, this sort of thing, our vegetative functions, as medicine calls it. Another level, the Ruach, is related to our emotions. If you are angry, blame it on your Ruach. The Ruach made me do it. Just kidding. There is also a higher part of our soul, above the Nefesh and Ruach, and it's called Neshama. This is our soul's part which is more intimate with the higher realms of creation, and also responsible for intellect and intuition. Some Kabbalists will say that this part is subdivided into other parts, such as Haya and Yechida. This is why I said before that some Kabbalists will tell you we have 3 levels of soul, and some will tell you we have 5 levels of soul. But that is not relevant to discussion here in particular. It is a technicality. If you want more on the anatomy of the soul, please let me know in the comments. Maybe I will do some video on that later on. For now, all of this is only important, and I am mentioning it here, because we need to connect this discussion to the problems presented in the beginning of the video, the Dybbuk. For instance, when I say a spirit can enter my body and terrify me, what level of the soul is it? What level of the king's soul, Saul and Nebuchadnezzar, was being afflicted in the mentioned cases? In 1 Samuel 16:15, the Tanakh gives us the term. The expression, as we said, is Ruach Adonai. So does it mean it was an affliction of the Ruach, and therefore of the emotional components of personality? If yes, how is that connected to the other side, to the Sitra Achra? Well, the answer is not that simple. But if you remember my video about the Sitra Achra, you will remember that the klipot, the husks in the Sitra Achra, are always trapping the light of the Creator and preventing it from being shared. This selfishness, when reflected upon an individual, affects his or her journey after that. Also from that video, you remember I mentioned a very important Kabbalist called Yitzhak Luria. Well, according to Luria, when we leave this world, there are some parts of our soul that may have been elevated and can go to what we call Olam Haba, the world to come. Fine. However, some parts of our soul may still have some work to do, what we call Tikkun Olam. And for that, these souls may need to stay here in the physical world, and then they have to reincarnate. And here is the point. Sometimes a part of this soul that needs to reincarnate will refuse to do so. And in a selfish act of rebellion, it will end up becoming both a prisoner as well as a harasser in this world. This is what we call a Dybbuk. Notice that this soul made all this out of a selfish act. So if you think about it, this part of a soul is part of the light of the Creator, as any other soul, but it is being trapped by selfishness, which is the very definition of klipa, of a husk. Do you see the connection to the Sitra Achra now? Do you see why the Dybbuk is connected to the other side and becomes a problem in the physical world? So this soul can, in some cases, be responsible for such horrible deeds that some people in Jewish tradition will even call it a demon. It must be said that in technical terms, this is not exact. Demons are created like such from the beginning of time by the Creator, by God. And here we are talking about a soul created from the light, as we said, and then using its free will to rebel. But popular language sometimes doesn't care about technical correct usage of words. And you will find people saying that a Dybbuk is a demon. And it's not that difficult to see why some would see a Dybbuk inside a person and would promptly say that the person was with the demon inside their body. So I mentioned that the Dybbuk inside a body. Okay, when rebelling and refusing to follow its journey, the Dybbuk will roam around in this world until it finds a host, who is typically someone who also committed some horrible act, and in doing so, leaves him or herself exposed to an attack from Dybbukim, plural of Dybbuk. This spirit will then enter the body of that person and stay there as a parasite and also as an influencer. That is probably why Saul and Nebuchadnezzar started acting weird. It wasn't, strictly speaking, they were doing anything. It was the Dybbuk. And here is a fun fact. The word Dybbuk was used to refer to these spirits for the first time not in Hebrew nor in Aramaic, but in Yiddish, a language spoken by the Ashkenazi Jews coming from Eastern Europe and lands like Germany and Poland, roughly. The root of the word is Hebrew, however, and it is related to the idea of clinging. So a Dybbuk would be something that clings and attaches to someone, as it is believed that these lost souls are prone to do. Okay, now I know what a Dybbuk is. How can I get rid of it, God forbid, if I come across one? First of all, we need to be very careful with attributing any harm to a Dybbuk. If a person presents some kind of psychological alteration, it is imperative that this person be first and foremost taken to a medical specialist, okay? But just out of curiosity, what Kabbalistic tradition prescribes in case of a possession by a Dybbuk is to perform a ritual, preferably to be conducted in a synagogue, with a Kabbalist and a minyan, a group of 10 adult men. These men would have to go through a ritual purification in a mikvah, and they would each have to be wearing their talit and their tefillin. This kind of ritual takes a lot of time and energy and involves, among other things, talking to the Dybbuk, accusing it of its wrongdoings, blowing the shofar 7 times, lighting candles, reading psalms, bringing the Torah out of the synagogue, uttering the holy names of God, reciting the Ana Bekoach, and other things. It is something very, very exhausting and traumatizing for everyone involved. The important thing, of course, is to get the Dybbuk to go away and leave the body of the person. According to Chaim Vital, one of the greatest Kabbalists, the safest area for the Dybbuk to do so upon its departure is the area between the smallest toe of the feet and the nail. If the ritual is performed successfully, this is, of course, a very happy thing indeed. The person that was affected comes to a normal life, and the lost soul can go to wherever it belongs, in order to move on with its journey and reincarnate. Oh, and I almost forgot, as a last procedure before finishing the ritual, the Kabbalist in charge of the ceremony always prohibits the Dybbuk from entering any other bodies. There is no point in going through all this trouble only to allow the Dybbuk to enter someone else, right? And have to do it again in a few hours, in a few days. Take it as a lesson for your life. If you need to solve a problem, always try to get rid of it once and for all. So I hope you liked all that information about the Dybbuk or the Dybbuk. This is it on this dark topic for the time being. Let me conclude by asking you that are watching this video, what is your opinion up to now on Talmud Vibes? What parts of the videos and the channel are you enjoying? What maybe am I doing wrong and I could improve? And also, which topics would you like to see next in our next videos? Join us next week when we will be discussing what our sages teach us about death and what happens after life ends for us here on earth. This is it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week for another episode of Talmud Vibes. Stay tuned, stay healthy, and all the best.